We are in conversation with Mr. Michael Meyer, Director of Volkswagen Passenger Cars India. Mr. Meyer, thank you for talking to us. Your positioning of Volkswagen as the most accessible German premium brand over the next 2 years, what steps are you going to take towards kind of realizing that in the market?
Well, we have had a very interesting development in the last 9 months since I'm in the country. We've launched a new Polo with its new 1.5-liter TDI engine, and we've brought the DSG to the diesel of the Vento in September, adding this high technology dual clutch gearbox to the car. And we've launched recently the new Jetta. And all these cars have actually carried us forward in bringing the three main qualities of our cars. One is safety, which you can see in the Polo with double airbags, which is the Jetta with 6 airbags, including curtain airbags. So we've brought safety standards to these classes that have never been there. Secondly is drivability, fun to drive, one of the best diesel engines, but also TSI turbo direct injection engines, and build quality, which is solid quality of our cars. They're in there. So how are we going to build on that? Because that's very important. For a strong brand, you need strong products. And for a really strong brand, you need many strong products. So we will continue, and within the next 24 months, we will have 5 major additions to our portfolio. One being the new Vento that you see here in the back of us. And then we will be able to add both on the premium side of the market, where we think we have a space as the most accessible German premium car brand, and on the volume side. So on the volume side, clearly the sub 4-meter compact sedan segment, very interesting, where we will come with a built for India and designed for India product. On the premium side, it will be the executive sedan segment, very important for us, with a brand new Passat, which is doing very, very well in the recently launched markets. And on top, we will have the entry into the SUV segment with the next generation of the Tiguan, demonstrating our capabilities here. And as the last thing, there is, of course, one thing that's out of any norm, and that's the Beetle, the car that lives the myth Volkswagen better than anything else.
Broadly categorized, your product portfolio would be one on the aspirational set, one on the volume set, and the compact sedan which you're talking about would fall in the the latter part. How are you going to ensure that? Because it's going to meet some very formidable players in that segment which are currently there.
This compact sedan segment is actually a fairly new segment if you look into it. Many of the major competitors, major brands, having only entered in the last 1.5 years. So what the relevance of being there must be to show our values, safety, drivability, and build quality, to show them in a product in that segment that makes a difference. And that's what we're going to bring with what we call the compact sedan, and which will hit the roads in the next 24 months.
Okay. And on the accessible front, Polo, which currently is the entry level, there were a lot of talks a couple of years earlier. There were some discussions about the up platform, that later on it was found that perhaps it's not the right platform for India. Now with Volkswagen going into the MQB platform strategy, are we likely to see anything in the maybe beyond the 24-month period, maybe in the next 36 months or so, something which kind of lowers the entry barrier to the Volkswagen brand?
The segment below the Polo, if you look at it, it's mostly consisting of, let's say, very inexpensive cars that are on relatively low technology and safety levels. And as long as this continues, there's no way for us, we can't build such a car, and we don't want to build such a car. Of course, we are looking constantly into development, and it will largely depend on whether the customers will move into a very small car of higher standards, or whether slightly larger car concepts become more affordable, offering all that what the customer wants. So we're looking at that, and we're certainly not giving up on it, but as per current standards, we are not in there.
All right. And as far as the current market conditions are concerned, it looks like the tide is turning, though it's relevant more to in certain segments like SUVs and compact sedans. How do you see the market going in the next say in the next 24 months, which is your horizon for the introduction of the new products?
I think the market generally is on a good direction. And as long as some of the vital factors like interest, fuel prices, and also domestic growth and inflation are remaining healthy, I think customer sentiment will develop further positive. It's not going to jump, but I think that's what India is quite famous for. It will go into that direction, but you can't expect it to skyrocket immediately. So we're optimistic that this stays and that we have that windfall that carries, of course, the momentum to introduce new cars, because there will be people willing to spend and expand, move into higher segments. We are there when they come.
And talking about higher segments, if you talk about the premium segment, which is where your Passat will fall in, which is one of the cars which are going to launch. But then you also run the possibility of kind of entering into the Audi territory, for example, which is again a group brand. So you'll be competing against another group brand as well.
I think that's one of the success secrets of one of the world's largest companies, which operates with 12 brands. And believe me, it's one and one is not only two, it's more than two.
And as far as the Volkswagen strategy concerned, as I see it, I mean, you've got a very very conscious move about the exports and domestic strategy. Exports giving you that kind of additional business and also cushioning, kind of providing you the platform while you build the domestic market. So in the next 24 months, which is the time period we are talking about, how do you see exports kind of contributing to overall volumes?
The strategy that we have in terms of producing cars is a global strategy. So India is not just the factory for India, it's part of our global production network, which also is a global product network. So which car comes to which factory is not only defined by which country, of course it plays a major role. So on the one hand side, I think the nature of our system is that we will always have a balance of exports. The other thing is obviously the relevance of the cars produced here to other markets. And the Vento, for instance, has tremendous success in countries like Mexico, South Africa, and in another couple of dozen other markets. So this equity is being created, so that will continue, and we will have to cater for it here in India.
And roughly, if I'm not wrong, currently it's about 60% of your production is exported. And how do you see it over the next 2 to 5 years?
The wonderful thing of this strategy is that you've got a good hedging. So actually you are far more robust against swings of currencies and markets because you can balance off with. And whether that is 50-50 or 30-70, we're actually used to that. Our cars can be built as left-hand drive as well as right-hand drive. So this is a fairly flexible thing that we can steer according to the demand of the market.
And the powertrain facility which you inaugurated earlier this year, you have started off with the 1.5 TDI. I would guess it would be fair to assume that adding a petrol powertrain there is also imminent, because as you drive towards your, enhance your localization strategy, and that would be something which you would be looking at, isn't it?
Of course, but that has a relevance to let's say the entire bucket of group brands, and therefore we're actually in the right facility. We should just go across and talk to Mahesh Kotumudi, the president of Volkswagen India, on where are we with the localization strategy. But obviously it's fair to say that engines play a major role in localizing, and we've been successful with the diesel engine, and of course we will be building on that success.
And also let's talk, safety is one of the key pillars of the Volkswagen brand, and that is also an issue which is increasingly being discussed in the Indian market, and it also caused a stir last year with certain brands not doing fairly well. How do you see the movement of the safety levels in India, and what kind of role is Volkswagen going to play there?
Well, I was surprised to hear just recently that some of our competitors, which earlier on thought airbags wouldn't be a necessary thing, they are now saying it is, but they don't have enough of them. Well, we have enough of them. No, I think it's a more complex thing. We took the decision because it's an inherent brand value. It's not about airbags only. If you look at the build quality and the body structure of that car, that alone makes the passenger cell so rigid that it will withstand a lot more crash energy than any other car. Secondly, airbags add on to it and other features. And this is what we've deliberately made as a choice, to bring that into India, to make it available not only for a happy few that buy the top-end variant, but for everybody. You have that in the Polo and the Vento, and you even have it in the Jetta with 6 airbags for everybody. So that is one thing. The other thing, is it relevant to the customer? Yes, it is. But it is certainly not the only thing why somebody buys a car, because if it were, we would only be selling Volkswagens. But it increasingly is, and we can see that. Variants that we've just, were negligent in their contribution to our sales because they were entry level without airbag, they're now in more demand. So we see new people coming in. So for us it pays off, but it will really only pay off on the midterm. Does that increase the safety in Indian car on the motorways and in traffic? I'm not sure, because it demands a broader discussion and more actions. Yes. It is also about enforcing traffic rules. It's about driver training. It's about road infrastructure. And it's about safety in cars. So all this needs to work, and we're very happy to participate in predominantly from the press side in a debate that raises the consciousness of safety as an inherent value of motoring, rather than saying it's an additional option and I have an airbag or I have a stronger radio. I think that's the wrong choice.
And there's also a lot of focus on the passive safety features like airbag or. Exactly. But do you think that perhaps enough focus is not given, or perhaps active safety features needs to be focused more? For example, better braking efficiency, better lighting, for example, or things like that, because that would also kind of preempt kind of certain for example, certain crash situations, for example.
Well, I think it can only speak for my brand, and all these things, they are inherent in the cars. If we look at the quality and the efficiency of our brakes and the structures, the crash structures of our bodies, that's inherent. I think that shouldn't be depending on which country you sell the car in.
And as coming back to the market, we have seen Volkswagen the 2014-15, the overall volumes were still less than last year, even though month on month you were saying March has been a better month than last March. How do you see this year for Volkswagen?
Well, if I look in the last 4 to 5 months, we've been growing over the previous years. We've started to do that, peaking in March, 22% over and above last year. So I think we're going to continue on this road. If the market stays the same in the same sentiment, we will continue on beating our last year records, our last year numbers. And with the new cars coming in, the further years will also be positive for us.
So, of the 5 cars that you showcased, how many can we expect during this financial year?
They're all going to hit in 24 months.
I see. And on that note, wishing you all the best.
Thank you.
Talking to
it was a pleasure talking to you.
Always a pleasure.